Hiya, I hope you're keeping well. Today I'm going to show you this makeup look from scratch. Cleopatra, you'd asked me for some tips for dry skin. Cara, you'd asked me about, sponges versus hands or brushes. So I've used a beauty blender for my makeup today, which I don't usually tend to do. But yeah, lots of different bits and pieces, so I hope you enjoy. There's a full list of everything I've used in the caption of the video, so if you click to make it full screen, the title will come up along the top, click the arrow and everything will drop down in a list. To begin with, I've prepped my skin. I've got my prescription cream on that I use in the mornings and I've got my SPF 50 on. And then today I'm going to use my same everyday foundation, the IT Cosmetics CC cream, but I'm going to do it with a sponge. Now, Cara, you'd asked me a while ago on YouTube which method I prefer in terms of hands, brushes, sponges. And I would really say that depending on the kind of finish you want, they all do slightly different things. Now, in relation to a dry skin, if you're experiencing patches of dryness or flaking, I think a sponge can be a really great option because you're pressing it on rather than rubbing it in. And if you've got areas of dryness that you want to build coverage on, but you don't want to necessarily rub the skin and make that flaking go all over the place, then a sponge can be a really great way to get your product on and build coverage in those areas. Now, this sponge is dampened, which means that this coverage is more diluted. If you've watched a lot of my videos, you'll see that the CC cream finish is much sheerer than when I use a brush. And I'd say as well, Cara, that, a brush, depending on the kind of brush you use, can help you to achieve a really flawless and full coverage finish. I think hands can be lovely for when you want something really soft and you want to work a product into the skin and let the warmth of the hands kind of let it melt in and feel lovely. And a sponge, yes, it's going to be great on these dry areas to press on rather than aggravate anything. But I just feel like, you can see here, it's fine and everything, but it's soaked up half the product and I haven't got anywhere near the coverage. So I used the normal amount of CC cream I would use with a brush, and I need more coverage. I know what my skin's like, it'll show through the day, and I'm having to go in with another pump. So even though the sponge tip is really great for that, it was someone that left a comment and I'll never forget it. It was so brilliant. It was one of the days I'd used a sponge. She said that she likes to use a brush all over to put her foundation on and then go over with a sponge at the very end so that you get that kind of pressed on finish that you might be looking for, but it hasn't absorbed all your foundation throughout the application process. And I think that's a really great tip. I actually love the finish that this gives. I think it's really luminous. I love the way it goes on. But the reality is you'll be going to the shop to buy another CC cream a lot quicker if you were using your sponge every day. So I suppose what I'm saying after all that is have a little look at the sponge on the dry areas, but you might wish to use a brush first and then finish with your sponge. Oh, right in the eye there, so that you don't waste too much product. Now I'm just going to use what I've got left to build these cheeks. Now, another question, Michelle, you'd asked me, is how to cover redness because your makeup keeps rubbing off in the red areas. What I'm going to do is come back to this, because what I want you to do, Michelle, is do your whole makeup and then add some more coverage in the red areas at the very end. But I need to make sure I've powdered, I've done any creams, anything like that, because I want that to be your final step. So starting with this, I'm going to kind of carry on and we'll come back to it. So to seal this into place, I'm going to use powder. But before I do that, Sam, you had asked me for a Trinny London tutorial. I've noticed actually lots of people asking me what do I think about Trinny, or it's definitely a brand that people are asking more questions about at the moment. So I'm going to show you a few of my faves. And actually, Amy, we were on about this week, weren't we? I'm going to use the bronzer in Jensta. If you're really fair, I think this is a really great option for you. The blush, I think, is Wiggs that I always use, really nice. And then I'm going to show you some of the highlighter as well. So first of all, with the Jensta, I'm going to go in with my Complexion Perfection brush from IT Cosmetics. I'm just going to pat the excess off on the back of my hand and then press this where I want my bronzer to be. And another reason why I'm pressing it on is that I don't want to lift any of that coverage that I've been trying to build. And I'm going to take this nice and high. I want to give a nice lifted look to the skin rather than dragging anything down. I'm going to take a little bit down the nose. So I'm just going to take this everywhere that the sun would naturally hit. Okay, so Jensta is on. I'm going to powder this really soon and it'll look a lot softer when it's powdered. But I'm just going to go in with the same brush and my Wiggs and take some of that on the high points of the cheeks again. Now I'm really pressing this in so that I can put my pink where I want it and keep the pink that I want to covered. Tiny bit through the temple. And then I'm going to do my highlighter at the end because I've done this the wrong way around. I wanted to do a really brown smoky eye today, which by right I should have done before I did my complexion. But here I am and I'm going to have to go with it because, by the way, taking a tiny bit of powder to seal everything in. Really soft touch, barely really touching the face because I want to seal it in, not lift what I've just built. This is the IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Pores loose powder. And one of the nice things about this is it will seal everything into place, but it's so finely milled that you get it sealed into place, but it doesn't take away from the glow. The reason I am going to carry on is because I've been making these TikTok videos. I'll tell you about this while I just put some, this is the Brow Power Micro. I've been making these TikTok videos the last couple of days. I put one up the other day about how to make blue eyes pop and to use like a coppery colour, and it was really popular. And then in the comments people were like, what about a green, what about a brown, or whatever it might be. So because I've got blue eyes, it's really difficult to show why like you should use blue on a brown. Basically my argument is you should use a blue on brown eyes to make them look really bright if you are going for something that, you know, you want them to look piercing. I don't believe in rules day to day, but in terms of like colour theory, what's going to make them look brighter, blue is a great option. But because I've got blue eyes, I feel like one of the easiest ways for me to show that contrast is to put a brown on. So I'm going to do some brown eyeshadow. Okay, eyes, I'm going to go in with some MAC Mulch to begin with. I'm going to take that on the brush, pat the excess on the back of my hand and take this right the way over the eyelids. Trust the process, this will look great in a minute. I'm going to take some under the eye line as well. And then I'm going to take some of the brown down on a much fluffier brush. This is a Doll Beauty blending brush. And I'm going to start to take this through the kind of upper space between the line and the socket. Again, I'm barely picking anything up, really soft touch and a tiny bit of product so that I don't overload my eyes. Now, I'm just going to take a little bit more mulch on a little blending brush and soften the line between that lid and the blended brown. But what you'll see that we're going to achieve is a lovely dense wash of that mulch that softens out into this soft blend into nothing. And hopefully the colour theory is correct. Can you see now how my eyes look a bit more blue because they're with this brown that's the opposite to them? So the same thing would apply if you had brown eyes and you put a blue colour on, or like a navy, something like that. Okay, loading up on the Superhero mascara. There we go. And I'm going to take a tiny bit of the Trinny highlighter just through the high points of the cheeks there. I want to avoid anything shiny towards the centre of the face because that's where I'm prone to a bit of oil. So nice and high to add that luminosity and give a bit of a lift. Now, Michelle, this is the point of your makeup when I want you to do your final touches on the redness. I've used my sponge, I've used my brushes, I've used my hands. When I'm at this point where there's nothing else for me to add, that's when I'd do your final step of your redness reducing step, because what I want to do is put the product on, press it into place and then not touch it so that it's got a better chance of lasting. So I'm going to use the Laura Mercier Secret Camouflage Concealer. I have worked with them to support the launch of this, but it's a really brilliant double-ended concealer. One end is a corrector and that's going to be great for your redness, and the other end is a brightener, and that's more of a pearly finish that's good for things like under eye circles, things like that. But I'm going to take, where am I, the correct side. What you could do is literally just put a little bit of this where you know you're prone to the redness showing through. Really gently pat it in and then leave it. Because what we want to do, rather than rub it in, rubbing it in is going to lift it off. We want it to sit on your skin and cover any redness and just stay where we put it. But if you were to do that and then use your powder brush and then use your sponge and then use your hands, you'd be applying so much pressure to it that it would have lifted off before it had a chance to stick. So anything that you've got in this similar vein that is really good for cancelling out that redness, try using it as the very last step. And then I know this sounds really simple, one of my favourite tips for anybody, no matter what your makeup is like or how much you wear, how much you don't wear, whether you even wear makeup at all, just really try not to touch your face. Because the amount of people I speak to and their makeup is coming off and they're saying, I don't know what's wrong. And then you sit and have a cup of tea with them and they're rubbing the face all day. So just bear that in mind. Once you get into the habit of that, your makeup will not move. To finish everything off, I'm going to go in with some of the Peaches lip liner in Praline and a bit of matte lipstick in Kinda Sexy. Well, there you have it, all good to go, and I'm going to go make that brown eyes TikTok now, so I'm going to live and leave you. But thank you for the questions. If there's anything you want to see in a video, please feel free to let me know and I'll touch on it. And yeah, I'll chat to you very soon. Have a nice day.